Monday, May 8th, 2023. Yesterday was my second day off. I took both Sundays off so far. The first Sunday, I wasn't planning on taking off, but I needed it. I just needed some space from the practice. Yesterday was planned, but I didn't feel like I needed it, which feels good. Feels like, okay, I took the time anyway, and I'm going to take the next 2 weekends, the next 2 Sundays. Decided just month one, take it slow, and just check in with family, check in with people. It's mostly been connecting with humans. Today, I had a couple different circling sessions. One was a friend that I haven't circled or really done any kind of deeper work with. We've been at similar seminars, but nothing super deep, and that was great. We really got into coping mechanisms, and I was talking about how mine, aren't here anymore, or at least they're changing. My coping's now coming in form of naps and my mind, how much it thinks or what it thinks about as I'm playing the game. And just talking about coping and how easy it is to demonize a coping mechanism and how easy it is to normalize a coping mechanism, and how both, in a way, polarize the activity. Like saying something like masturbation is bad through a certain lens. There's definitely downsides to, especially if pornography is involved, neurochemically, addiction-wise, so on and so forth. But at the same time, is it bad, or is it just, depending on how someone uses it, right? Is the actual act of masturbating bad? Or can it be actually connecting? Can it be a way of coming into pleasure in a healthy way? And so, as I am forming new coping mechanisms, doing that in a healthier way, napping in a way that feels good and is allowing, instead of just making napping wrong, which for a long time in my life I've been very self-critical, very self-judgmental, and so that has given me I have a critic in a lot of ways. So as I look at the world, it's easy for me to critique and judge. And kind of not falling into that. Though that's also been a blessing in some ways. And I circled with another friend who I've circled with a lot. That's always great. Jameson. Got into some internal energy that wanted to be moved around. Felt like I had like some tiger energy where it was in a cage and wanted out. Didn't leave my house to go out in nature today. By choice. I've been out a lot, and my neck and whatnot are a little sunburnt. So I just want to give that a little rest. So I did get parts of my body in the sun. Sat on the couch for a while playing the Game of Presence. The Game of Presence. I guess that, I haven't talked a lot about the Game of Presence. I think part of me has been running on the assumption that there's a baseline understanding of the Game of Presence as I do these, but maybe I should start really getting into that more. So within the Game of Presence, the simple act of bringing my attention, my awareness into the room that I'm in and engaging the senses and stepping out of mind as it thinks about some other time and place. There's a lot that can be done. right? I can focus on so many things. I can focus on colors. I can focus on movement. I can focus on certain objects. I can focus on my entire field and 20 objects, 50 objects at once. I can focus on my internal sensation. I can focus on the chakras. I can focus on a specific chakra. Life force, emotion, specific emotion. And one of the things that I notice within myself is that when there are too many options, it's easy to either become very, like I choose something, and if it's a little hard or if it's not, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of experience that's different than what I was potentially anticipating, then I'll willy-nilly engage instead of being like, okay, I'm going to be with my third eye right now. And that spiritual eye, that magnetism in my head. And just staying with that. And I think I talked about this on a previous one, where my anchor. So that's what I've been doing. I've been anchoring with the spiritual eye. And just kind of like holding on for dear life. Sometimes when my mind just goes crazy, just starts thinking about all these different things. My mind thinks a lot, and thinks a lot about, I mean, I guess you could call it fantasy, but alternative life experience. Like, what would have happened if I had said this thing to this person instead of saying that thing? What would have happened if I hadn't made this decision 10 years ago? What would happen if I came across this person again? What would life be like if I had ... more money, better at meditating, was already awakened, like all this stuff, and it just goes. It just goes. And there are times where, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this, where my mind will have a conversation with someone, and it will work, it'll either like work out the details of the conversation, or it'll tell someone off, or it'll whatever. And then it'll get itself worked up in the process, and then it'll loop. And it's actually one of the reasons that why I started playing the game of presence in the first place, was just like, oh my gosh, my mind's just doesn't stop. It's kind of insane. And just learning to come out of that, learning to be like, okay, now I'm engaging my senses. Now I'm feeling life around me. And such a beautiful practice. So simple, the game of presence. But what I'm noticing that's different about this experience than my past experiences with the game of presence is now that like this is the only thing I'm doing, the intensity level's been turned up to an extent that it's just a new level. And I'm having to, in some ways, start from ground zero again. And in some ways, I'm not starting from ground zero, because there's a lot of practice that I've had that I'm utilizing to navigate this space. But there's definitely, and within the game of presence, the two questions are you in the room? Right? And that's just simply like half the time a reminder, like, oh yeah, come into the room. Okay, I see what's here. I'm starting to drop in. Or I feel what's here. But then the follow-up question is, can you stay in the room? It's a very different ask, right? Staying in the room for 10 seconds as I come into the room is different than 10 minutes or all day or a month. And that staying in the room so much has been coming up for me. And the mind's just like, nope, not having this. Don't want this. No, thank you. And I've been battling that. I've been allowing that. I've been disengaging from it. I've been watching it. I've been Da 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 da. There's a poem. I'll probably find it and read it at some point from an Indian saint. I'm not even going to attempt it. It's a very long poem, but essentially the idea is that you can climb mountains, you can tame tigers, you can rule the world, but gaining mastery over the mind is more difficult than any other thing on the list and far more valuable. And so there's just this calling to getting to know our mind incredibly well, and then gaining a sense of either control over or harmony with, I think is a better way I like to put it, with the mind, which I also think is why so many traditions talk about how to engage, whether it's with the spirit or with the pure mind, or like with this teaching it to settle. It's no small task, in my experience. Yeah, other than that, I meditated for a while, just staying with the third eye, and then I listened to some music, and Zen came over and sat on my lap, so I was going to play drums, but I just kind of head bobbed with Zen, staying with the third eye, and feeling good. I'm feeling good. Which feels good, because the first 10 days or so were a lot more pain than anything. Harry out.